Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kelly Ishmael, and in this video, I'm going to show you a couple of ways to customize your Lightroom presets to help you create your own unique looks that reflect your aesthetic and style. So I'm starting here in Lightroom in the Develop module, and this is a little still life shot that I set up in my office. I have my tabletop set next to a window. And the first thing that I want to do is crop this image. I shot it vertically, and whenever I do that, I prefer to use an 8:10 crop. I just like that visual a little better, or that aspect ratio, I guess. And then anytime I have an image that has some strong vertical or horizontal lines, sometimes if you don't get your camera angled just right, it might make the lines look a little wonky. So I like to come to this transform panel and click on auto, and that will help to get the perspective a little better. And then what I can do, I'm just going to crop in a little bit tighter, and then I can just drag on these corner handles to get those vertical lines to be a little more vertical, so it doesn't, not quite so wonky. And I think, oh, that left one is still kind of wonky there. Maybe just tilt it just a tiny bit more to the left. That's good enough. Okay, next I'm going to come to my basic panel, and I want to adjust the white balance. It was very cloudy the day that I shot this image, so I'm just going to click on this white dropper light. I'm going to click on this eyedropper tool to help me adjust my white balance, and I'm going to find a place that is very neutral, or to pick a target neutral. And one of the things that I do is look at the bottom RGB values, and you can see they're all within just a couple of decimal points of each other. So that means it's a really neutral spot on my image. So I can go ahead and click there, and that's just going to tweak the white balance ever so slightly. It warmed it up a little bit and took out some of the green hue. So I think that's fine. And so with that set, next I am going to select my preset. And for this image, I am going to use this Muse 08 preset. These are the presets that I bought from Pretty Presets. I've really been enjoying them quite a lot, and I will include a link to those in the captions below. All right, so for this preset, it uses this profile called Klimt. I think that's how you say it. Um, the one way that you can think about it is a preset is like a recipe or a set of instructions for different panels and adjustments. A profile, though, is more like a translator of digital pixel data. And so this profile was created by Pretty Presets, and they have it associated with this preset, but I can play with this profile independently of all of the other adjustments that come with that particular preset. So what I would like to do, I really like the vintagey vibe of this one, so I would like to play that up, and I'm going to move this slider to the right quite a bit, maybe somewhere, actually quite a bit. And you can see by playing with this slider that it has lightened the overall image. It's also reduced the saturation. So now it's got a little bit softer, more vintage vibe, which is what I would like to go for in this shot. And I think somewhere around here will be just fine. Now, with this overall lighter, softer look, one thing I would like to do is just reduce the overall exposure a little bit. I like kind of the little bits of shadow. I think it adds a nice amount of contrast. You can see it's a pretty contrasty preset, but I just like having to pull in a little bit of those deeper colors. I just think it kind of grounds the image a little bit more. I like a moody image, so that feels good to me. Okay, next I am going to bump up the texture quite a bit. I've got a lot of things that have texture naturally, like the wood board. There's a lot of texture in these little filler flowers and pretty texture in the petals. And then probably what I'll do is bump up the clarity just a little bit more. Clarity finds those edges between the dark areas and the light areas and just kind of crisps those up. So I like this. It's got a lot of contrast. It's very crisp, and I really like that effect. All right. What I would like to do though, now that I've added that extra crispness, I'm going to desaturate it a little bit because I really did love those like soft, peachy, slightly warm yellowish apricot colors. Okay, I think that's going to be great. All right, here I'm going to open the tone curve panel. This is the curve that was created within the preset that I used. And one thing I like to do occasionally on my tone curve is lift this black point up. And what that does is it creates a little bit of a matte finish or a vintagey film-like vintage. And I think that works really well with the vibe that I'm going for in this photo. If I turn off the tone curve, you can see here it is before, and then here it is after. The tone curve has added a little bit of extra contrast, but I like that just soft matte finish by pulling up that black point. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click off the tone curve. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to skip color grading for a second. I'm going to come into the deep detail panel. I do want to add some sharpening. So usually I'll move the sharpening slider to the right, kind of in about this 2/3 area, and then hold down the Option key on my keyboard, and then just pull that slider to the right just until it's just sharpening around the outside edges of the main elements in the photo. And I think somewhere in here will be just fine. All right. Okay, and then I'm also going to just manually add in some color and luminance noise reduction. I shot this with an ISO of 1600, so sometimes you can get a little bit of digital noise with a higher ISO. I love this so much so far. It's just softer, little bit faded, vintagey, totally the look I'm going for. All right. Lens corrections, it automatically set my camera and lens profiles, so I'm pleased with that. Now I'm going to come back to this color grading panel. And what color grading allows you to do is add in some color or different tones in specific regions of a photo. And so the main regions of a photo that you can manipulate with color grading are the midtones, the shadows, and the highlights. And so what I would like to do, here are all three, but you can target them a little more specifically by clicking on one of these larger circles. So here I am in the midtone area. And what I would like to do is just add a tiny bit of color in the mid-tone range of my photos. So it's not going to be the darkest or the lightest areas of my photos, but it's going to be probably here in this area right here, maybe a little bit more here. So I am going to click on the little circle and I am going to move it into kind of this peachy apricot area. And then when I click on the inner circle, I can drag it into the circle. So here would be the maximum effect, something like this, which is way more than I want. But you can see on the photo here, this is where it's being applied around the edges or the edges where the lines are, and then definitely the mid-tones of the woodwork and the flowers. This is way too much. I just wanted you to see how where this is being applied. I'm going to back this way off and just add a tiny bit, maybe just like the littlest amount around maybe this saturation of 5. So the hue is this 37, so it's kind of a peachy, warm apricot color, a saturation of 5. And then I think I'm going to pull this luminance slider to the left a little bit. And basically what that's going to do is bring down the brightness of just that specific region of my photo. I like that it adds that extra little bit of a moodiness to my photo that I am loving right now. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is come into the shadows region, and I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to move my um, slider here kind of in the same general peachy warm area, and then grab the center and just a tiny bit of the saturation. And I'm not going to adjust the luminance at all here. I'm going to leave that as is. The shadows are dark enough. There's a bunch of contrast already. So you can play with the color grading or see the effects of the color grading by clicking on this little eye icon. So here is my image without the shadow color grading. And here it is with, it's super subtle, very, very subtle. Here it is on the midtone. If I turn it off here, this is what it is without, and then here it is with. Once again, super subtle. And then I can turn off all of the color grading. Here's my image without any color grading at all. And then here it is with the color grading. Okay, that is just fine for me. All right, the last thing that I want to do is just add a little bit, not a vignette, so to speak, but to indicate kind of a more of a light, dark, kind of play with that a little bit. The light source in this photo is coming in from the left. And so what I would like to do is add a linear gradient along this right side and just deepen that a tiny, tiny little bit, just to kind of play with the light and the dark regions of the photo. Once again, just enhancing that moody vibe that I really love in a photo. And it already was set to this darken or burn preset there. So if I move it just a tiny bit, I think that looks great. Yeah, all right. So I can go ahead and close out of that. And then if I hit backslash on my keyboard, here it is before any adjustments. And then here it is after. And if I click this little icon down here, here you can see just the side by side before and after. Once again, a little more contrast, a little bit punchier, but softer and less saturated, kind of moody, kind of vintage. Totally the look that I was going for. I think it's great to be able to do one click with a preset and just move on. That's what presets are great for, is just speeding up your workflow. I think it's also fun to experiment and play and, you know, experiment with different pieces of the preset. So I hope this gives you some ideas for maybe expanding your own presets. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.